flying Air Force One back to the White House as we speak, certainly wide-ranging, ending with actress Sydney Sweeney. But he first addressed the firing of the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, justifying that move, doubling down, saying, you remember this woman came out with phenomenal numbers before the election. Then when it comes to Russia, he confirmed those 2 nuclear submarines we've been reporting on are indeed in the region now. He added that thousands of soldiers are getting killed in the Russian war, he says. We stopped a lot of other countries from war. We are going to get that one stopped too. When it comes to that Friday deadline, he confirmed that there will be sanctions on Russia. And he also said that Steve Witkoff may be going to the region Wednesday or Thursday this week, that Russia asked to meet. We'll be tracking that. When it comes to Gaza, he said that we want people fed. We want Israel to get them fed, that we're going to give them a lot of contribution. We do want to get to News Nation's Libbey Dean live at the White House, tracking it all for us. Libbey.
Good evening, Natasha. President Trump there, as you mentioned, threatening sanctions on Russia if they don't make more progress towards a ceasefire deal on their war in Ukraine. And this is something that we've been continuously hearing from President Trump ahead of this deadline, which is set right now for Friday, that he will sanction the country if they don't make progress. Now, we have heard, of course, Russian officials brush off this threat of sanctions, saying that Russia's developed an immunity to sanctions. That's something we've been tracking throughout the day today. But these sanctions are really something that we've also heard Ukrainian officials like President Zelensky urging the U.S. to impose on Russia, and President Trump saying there that he will impose these sanctions if there isn't more progress towards a ceasefire deal. Now, as you mentioned, on Friday, President Trump ordered those submarines, those U.S. nuclear submarines, to those new positions, that pair of submarines, and now he just confirmed that they are in the region near Russia. And this all came after the former Russian president made threats against the U.S., and that's what President Trump explained for the movements of these submarines. So that is something that the president just confirmed, as well as his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who the president says on Wednesday or Thursday of next week could be visiting Russia. This would be an incredibly high-profile visit from the Trump administration as we've continued to see escalations in the tensions between Russia's President Putin and the former president of Russia as well, and President Trump. It really just continues to escalate between these two. I want us to take a listen to what President Trump had to say about those sanctions tonight.
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions. So we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him.
The president left the White House here on Friday with a lot on his plate, and you just heard him lay it out there. These developing wars, of course, between Russia and Ukraine, and this deadline that he set for Friday, as well as tariffs coming center stage because those go into effect on Thursday. He had set that self-imposed deadline of Friday. Then we saw that deadline get pushed. But we also know those trade deals with between the U.S. and Canada and Mexico, as well as China, these haven't been reached yet. And that is a big thing that the president is returning here to the White House tonight, saying that he is open to negotiating, but we don't know what those negotiations look like. It's not something he really focused on. They're more focused on the wars between Russia and Ukraine, as well as what's going on in Gaza, given that his envoy was in the region on Friday, and they're looking into the humanitarian aid situation that's unfolding on the ground there. So the president is going to return here to the White House with a big week ahead. He also teased major announcements when it comes to who he will place as the Bureau of Labor Statistics head after he fired the head on Friday. So that's going to be a major announcement, as well as who he wants to replace on the Federal Reserve Board after that person resigned on Friday as well. So some major announcements we'll be tracking here at the White House this week and tonight from the president with these sanctions on Russia. Natasha.
And a lot to come this week. Libbey Dean live at the White House with that. Thank you. And President Trump's deadline for Russia coming amid a bold move from the commander-in-chief. You heard him just talking about this. And with a single Truth Social post, the president personally ordering 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to reposition in the appropriate regions following provocations from a top Russian official. Now, Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, now one of Vladimir Putin's most loyal strongmen, warned of potential nuclear retaliation if Western support for Ukraine crosses certain lines. The Pentagon is not confirming any submarine movement, with sub-deployments among the most classified operations in the U.S. military. But the rising nuclear rhetoric putting several on edge. So is this real military posturing or political theater?
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.